Hey everyone, this is the Game Design Live Chat. I'm Carla Kopp. I am a board game designer, developer, and publisher. I run Weird Draft Games and Galactic Raptor Games. Here on this side of me is Molly Johnson. She is from Flatout Games. She's the co-founder. Their team recently kickstarted and is delivering Calico by Kevin Russ, and they're launching Cascadia on Tuesday, and they also designed a point salad and truffle shuffle. Jonathan Gilmour, he's a freelance board game and RPG designer and developer. Some of his games include Dead of Winter, Kids on Bikes, and Dinosaur Island. And finally, we also have Cory, the owner of Times Infinity Games, and he is also a board game designer. Right now, we're doing the pitch practice, and our first designer is Ananda. Ananda, you'll have 3 minutes to do your pitch, and then we'll have 3 minutes to give you some feedback. So, ready when you are.
All right. Well, my game is Alien Art Heist. It's a short game for 2 to 6 players, sort of a casual party type game. The game has 100 art cards, 7 vocabulary cards, 6 dry erase boards, and dry erase markers. And it plays in about 15 to 20 minutes. All right, so the premise is this. The legendary thief Grumflox Babbledop has assembled a team of scoundrels from across the galaxy for the heist of the millennium. But different species don't always see eye to eye. So can you overcome your language and cultural barriers to steal some of the most famous paintings in the sector? So yeah, this is a game about communication between different alien species. The way it works is at the start of the game, each player is going to be assigned a species. So for example, here's the strain, which is sort of like a virus type species, or you've got sort of the warlike warmong and so forth. So throughout the game takes place in rounds, and in each round, one player will be designated as the thief for the round, and the rest of the players are clients. So the thief's job is to identify. So the clients are going to specify a painting that they want the thief to steal, and the thief's job is to find it and steal it. But the challenge is that the different aliens don't all, they have a limited grasp of each other's vocabularies, and have sort of cultural differences in how they communicate. For example, the strain, so this manifests in restricted vocabulary for communication. Sorry, I should have mentioned this is a co-op game. So all players have access to this common vocabulary on this sheet. So just common words that are useful for describing artwork. In addition, each species has its own special vocabulary. So for example, the strain can use any body part in their description. They can use chemicals, elements, different temperatures, and different types of containers. And the way it works is the thief will close their eyes or leave the room, and each client will draw 2 cards and choose one of them. So for example, if I'm the strain, I might draw these 2 cards, and then I'm going to choose one as the painting that I want the thief to steal. So for example, looking at these 2, I think I'll have an easier time describing this one, so I'll just discard this one. And Kronk the Warmong over here is, you know, they're going to make their own decision about which one they want. So the next thing that happens is each client has
time. So finish the thought, and we'll get to feedback.
Okay, yeah. Each client has to write out a description using only the words in their vocabulary. Then you add more cards. Then the thief comes back, and the thief has to identify the artwork and give it to the correct client.
Okay, so now judges, if you have any questions, now's the time, and then straight to feedback.
Sure. Are the clients the aliens?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you only ever see 2 cards out at a time?
No, no. Each client looks at 2 cards, discards one of them. Then all of the cards are going to go in the center, and more cards are going to be placed out, depending on the number of clients. So the thief will have to identify their card among an array of cards.
So it's a bit like Dixit or Mysterium.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in that same genre of like identifying.
Like Mysterium and Codenames got like somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. What triggers the win condition, the end of the game?
So the game ends when each player has had 2 turns as the thief, so like 2 rounds around the table. And depending on how many paintings were successfully identified, there are different tiers of victory. Sort of like if you've played just one, you know, depending on how many successes you got, since it's a co-op game.
Okay. As far as the pitch, I was still. Well, I think all of us were still kind of confused by minute 3, because we came in with a bunch of questions. Well, and you eventually said cooperative, but saying cooperative in like the first sentence basically that you said probably would have gotten us like more like, oh, okay, this is what we're listening to, because cooperative versus competitive is very important, especially early on.
Yeah, I thought it was good. You really let in with, 2 to 6, party games, set the tone. Like that was very helpful to know right away. Like this is fast. So that's really good. Yeah, it's good to know all the components, but I think like getting a sense of what you're trying to do, and then what the end's going to be, how you're going to win. You could maybe bring that up forward a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would cut or heavily condense all the theme portions of it. They took up the majority of your time, and we didn't really get into what makes the game interesting. And there's a good chance that the theme will change once it goes to the publisher anyways. So I usually don't spend a lot of time on that. And I would even say like maybe the components and stuff, if they're on a sell sheet, I usually don't go over the components in the pitch. I just hand them the sell sheet and say, here's the components, so they can look over them themselves.
Right.
I guess it's good to know if there's like 1,000 cards or 100 cards, because that would maybe turn people off.
Yeah. Maybe take some time and go over what you want to say quicker within, because you have 3 minutes, because you want to leave time for questions and comments and such. So if you're at a purpose field or something, you want to make sure you leave enough time for that. So you want to get in the information and the right bits as quickly but clearly as possible. And if you're at like a 5-minute pitch or a purpose field or something, you want to. I know we know who you are, but you also want to introduce yourself, especially if you have some other games and stuff under your belt. You kind of put those out there and say, hey, I'm so and so. I have X game already published, and this is such and such. So kind of give you an introduction.
Okay, that's a timer. Any last thoughts for Ananda?
I would just say, I wonder if you have a bit more time, if you could immediately somehow engage people into the game, because I think that struggle is real. And so if there's a way that you can get people immediately trying to do the thing that they're going to have to do in the game, might be valuable. Especially with a party game, you want an immediate sense of like, oh, I'm going to be doing this.
Sure.
Yeah, like I agree with that, because like even like when we were to the question answering part, I was like, but what are we doing? But like with a party game, you should be able to like tell somebody like, oh, okay, so this is what you're doing, and like maybe even have them like try it out in that first 3 minutes. Like party games, you need to like get to the point like so fast. Okay, but thank you so much for being here. The next designer is Brian Ben, and he has 10 minutes to Meltdown. He was here. We're gonna wait for a second.
Sure.
Now he's back. Brian? 10 minutes to meltdown.
Hey, can you all see me?
We cannot.
We can hear you though.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to. I think I kicked myself out. Okay. Hi, I'm Brian Vinay. I have no games published currently, but you probably know me from Discord, maybe. And my game is 10 Minutes to Meltdown. It's a real-time cooperative asymmetric puzzle-solving game. And as you probably guessed, it plays in around 10 minutes. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen at the same time. This worked much better in practice. Basically, the premise of the game is everyone is working as a janitor in everyone's working as a janitor in a laboratory, and
why don't you get your presentation working and then we'll start.
okay. Whoops.
There it is. We can.
Well,
saw it for a second.
if you have not guessed by now, I am very analog. Okay.
Okay.
So everyone's working as part of a maintenance crew in a laboratory. One person accidentally flips on a supercomputer, which triggers a 10-minute meltdown timer. The other players are locked out of the room from the supercomputer, but they have the manual that holds the override keys to finding the override sequence. So to set up the game, there's 3 top panels, 3 middle panels, double-sided, and 3 bottom panels, and you just take one of each to assemble a supercomputer. So there's 216 different possible setups and solutions. And then one player will be able to see the supercomputer. The other players can be trapped outside with a manual that has a series of different puzzles that they will need to solve. So this is just one example of a puzzle. Players work together to try and find like a matching pattern of lights. And once you find whatever light corresponds to that supercomputer, you that would be like one of the 4 input codes that you're looking to solve. And then just to find the solution, each panel has a separate code. So you look at the code for that panel and see if the 4-digit answer that you have arrived at is the same as what would be reflected on the answer key to determine if you win or not. Sorry, I'll stop sharing the screen. I guess that's it for me.
Okay. So whenever you get to a certain point, you just check and see if you were right or not?
Right. Every puzzle would have, or every configuration has a 4-digit solution that you're trying to solve before the time runs out. So
there's a timer.
Yeah.
Either a sand timer or an app or something.
Yeah, either a sand timer or I've been using my phone for playtesting purposes.
Sure.
Is this like real time?
It is real time. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a real time cooperative puzzle solving game. That would probably have helped you all.
Yeah, I think that's my first piece of feedback is say real time cooperative puzzle solving, like in the first sentence.
Sure.
Because like even when you got to the end, I was just like, what?
Sure.
Yeah, I've played this game and it's fantastic before. I would maybe allude to the fact that it's similar to Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just so people can make an instantaneous connection with the mechanics that you're trying to emulate and what the game does.
Yeah, I was thinking, I've seen this. I'm sure I watched a video about something like this. So it's a version of that that's super interesting. Like if it's a scaled down or like faster or something, like a streamlined version of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to do like an analog version of something similar, and this is kind of what I stumbled upon.
It's an amazing design because when I played it, I tried to reverse engineer how you did it, and I couldn't figure it out.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I would lead with the experience. I know I'm going to keep saying this with everyone, but especially with a party game or a real-time game or something like that, like I know a few little technical glitches, so we understand that. But like you're in a room. It's a high pressure situation. There's a timer going. You've got this many cards. You have to communicate only this way with this person. This is what it looks like. There's these puzzles. Bam.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
It sounded like you were trying to give us how the game sets up. I don't think we really need that information.
Okay.
Just more of gameplay and mechanics and such.
Okay. So hit on the experience more.
Yeah.
I would lead with the experience. Like,
okay.
You're going to tell us that it is a real-time cooperative game, then you can tell us in what way you're going to feel like when you play it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Any other feedback?
Don't be afraid to like write down what you're going to say and kind of and practice it. It'll help you become smoother in explaining and transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Our next designer is Connor Wake, and he has his game Conservatory of Flowers. Are you ready to go, Connor? Are you in a forest? Can you hear us?
Oh.
I think you're muted. Okay. Well,
Hello?
oh, we have a Connor. Okay.
Okay, sorry, it defaulted to not a microphone. My microphone. Okay, hi, how's it going? So this is my game, Conservatory of Flowers. It is a tile-laying, puzzly game where you are basically making a little garden of flowers for people to walk around. Key difference here is what you're actually doing is, as opposed to a lot of tile-laying games where you're trying to make groups or adjacency things, you're instead trying to make paths connecting the flowers to each other. So to give a quick example of what that looks like, we have a red path that goes like this, that touches all the red flowers. And so what you're trying to do is connect paths between these signposts that are all kind of crisscrossing across your board. And you're going to be drafting from this central grid over here to do that. So basically, a quick example of what a turn looks like is you will grab a tile from over here. You can take any tile you like that is on the outside. So you wouldn't be able to take this one because it's trapped in the middle, but you could take this one. And so as you take tiles, more tiles become exposed for the other players and things like that. And then you can place it on the board. You either place it in an existing group of flowers. So you could place it here to start getting this yellow path going. Or if you want to start a new group, what you do is you grab a pond. And the pond is basically something to water the flowers. It comes with some point bonuses, and it also just like it adds a bit of attention of, do you want to start a new group of flowers? Because the more empty space you have, the better your paths can be, but you need to have your groups of flowers watered. So it's a bit of a back and forth between that. Game plays over a couple of rounds. You get points for having the longest of each path, as well as for connecting these different signposts together. And that's basically the game.
How many players in the game time?
Right, yeah. It's 2 to 4 players. It takes about 45 minutes. So it's one of those like take out and just play a quick little puzzly game after dinner sort of things.
Is the definition of on the outside with at least one side exposed, like, is that green one? Can you take that?
No, so that you need to be able to like slide it out.
Okay.
If you play Hive, it kind of works like Hive rules.
Yep.
Yeah. I can zoom in on this. So, for example, this wouldn't be able to slide because it would get stuck.
Right.
But this one can slide out perfectly, so that you can take that.
And does that refill? Do you refill that central place?
Yeah. It depends on how long the game goes on, but you can get between like 2 or 3 refills of the board as it goes. it's an interesting one because you don't want to fill the board up, because that would actually be bad. So how long the game takes is dependent on kind of when you've filled it up as much as you can.
Okay, and feedback for Connor.
I thought Cory Connor did a great job with his presentation. The game looks great. It'd be definitely something I think someone would pick up and publish. Did you say what the end game trigger?
Right. The end game trigger is something I'm a little bit working on. But basically, right now it's after 3-ish rounds of the thing filling up. So yeah, but still in progress figuring out the best end game for this one, because it's a bit different since you want to stop at a certain point, even though there are spots you can fill in. And that's kind of what makes the game interesting too. So yeah.
Yeah, those boards are really interesting shape too. They're very eye-catching. The table
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I really liked. At one point you were talking, like in the very beginning, you were like, okay, normally when you're tiling, you're doing patterns, and in this one, it's different because you're making paths. Like when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, I know why this is cool and different. Like because you're not making patterns, you're doing paths, but also this cool little thing in the center, and I mean just how it looks. So you did a great job there.
Thanks.
Yeah, the narrative is really good. I remember you presented another game that was the hedge building, right? Yeah. And same thing, it catches right away what it's this, except you're doing this differently piece that Carla mentioned. I remember that from that pitch too. So
cool. This is where Hedge Mage actually came from. So it's convenient in that way. Yeah.
Any other feedback, John or Cory?
No, I think it's a great pitch. The game sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Yeah, overall, I'm excited to whenever you play test it again.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to bring it.
Okay, thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have Cory. Cory's game is Cottywomple Roll and Hike.
Hello.
Cory?
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Cory and Alora, and this is Cottywomple Roll and Hike. It is a roll, write, and a race game for 2 to 6 players that you are doing path building using odds manipulation. Cottywomple is defined as to travel in a purposeful manner towards a vague destination. So in this game, you're going to be exploring a vast new forest, marking trails, blazing trails, to discover new mountain vistas, beautiful pristine lakes, breathtaking falls. On each turn, a player is going to roll with 2 dice. All the players will have a 3x3 grid, and you'll notice that there's arrows with numbers pointing north, south, west, and east. And those are the numbers that you're going to travel. When the dice are rolled, every player is going to pick 1 die for movement and 1 die for marking a trail. So, for example, if I chose this 1 and I'm on the center space, it might be hard to see. I can travel to the right using this 1. So my hiker would move to the right 1. And then with the other die, I'm going to mark a new trail on any of the empty arrows. So let's say I put the 3 here. That means from this point forward, I now have multiple ways to move north on this card if either a 5 or a 3 is rolled. It's important to note that if you go across the edge, you wrap to the other side. So what you're trying to do is build new paths towards these goals. And the goals are in the lower right corner. For example, this one requires 3 6s. And to claim a goal, you're going to do it, it's tic-tac-toe rules, either 3 in a row, vertically, horizontally, or diagonally with those numbers. But they have to be the numbers you wrote. It also doesn't matter which edge it's on. So for example, for that one I just saw, if there's a 6 here, 6 here, 6 here, at the end of my turn, I can claim this goal. And what I have to do, however, is erase those 6s, back off my cards. So you'll notice that while you are claiming a goal and scoring points, you're also reducing your odds again and kind of bringing back down your trails. When you claim a goal, a new one's going to come out, and the first player to claim 5 goals is the winner. To add a little bit of variety to the game, there's also rolls. So, for example, the backpacker here, when they roll 4s, are wilds, and they also have some unique abilities. So with Cottywomple, the mechanics are simple enough for casual players, but I think there's enough decision, choices, and clever moves for even the more advanced gamers to be able to figure out how to increase their odds of winning. And that's Cottywomple.
Is everyone playing in a shared area?
Oh, every player has their own unique 3x3 grid. So like most roll and writes, it's a kind of a communal role that you're all working within your own area.
Okay. That was my first question, was whether you were moving on your own set of 9 or a shared set. So that clears that up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And does every card start with 1 through 6 on it? So you always have
every card has 4 numbers on it, so there's always going to be 2 digits missing. And every card is unique. But so what happens is if you roll a number that you can't use for movement, you can actually use it to stay where you are and write a number where you already are standing.
Okay.
So you might strategically omit numbers on purpose so that you can continue to write numbers on your spot.
Okay. Can you erase the numbers that are originally on each card?
No, those are permanent. So those are only to give you an initial ability to move right off the bat.
And all the players will have the same numbers on each card, or everyone's board is going to be different based on numbers.
Every board is different, and every card is different. There's a unique combination of distribution of numbers.
Okay, so the main player interaction is whoever gets the goals first.
The goals are, so that's a variant, but the goals are actually, you get your own personal goals too. So again, this is a pretty friendly game with not a ton of interaction unless you choose to play that way.
What are the big aha moments?
The aha moments are, what I've found with players is when they, the really veteran players, when they get the certain combinations, they're like, okay, I know that if you roll a 3 or a 5, regardless, I'll be able to either move over here to finish this goal, or if you remove a 5, I'll be able to move over here and finish this goal. So you're kind of increasing your options by where you put your numbers, because you're trying to both increase your ability to move around, but also increase your ability to capture one of the goals. For example, if there's a goal like 4 is the middle number in multiple goals, you might be like, okay, I'm going to put a 4 on the center card so that like I could get either one of those goals depending on where I put the rest of the numbers. And all the goals are unique as well.
I think I'm still a bit unclear about how the goals work in relation to putting the numbers on the cards.
The goals are 3 values in a row, so 4, 4, 4, for example. So if there's a 4, 4, 4, and they're like in a vertical row, for example, I can erase those to claim that goal.
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's no mixed numbers. They're all just one straight shot. 4, 4.
No, there's some mix. So some are 2, 3, 4. That just happened to be ones I yanked out. Some are 1, 3, 5, like all odds. So every goal is unique as well.
I think one of the things that you should get out of this is like you did your explanation, but all of us had questions. So there is, I'm not sure where in the pitch, but yeah, there was a good number of questions, and the camera is very far from the cards, so that could have been part of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of interesting. I kind of want to see the whole thing set up, so I would trigger immediately that it's multiple setups for each person, and then say, here's one specific one, this is what it looks like. I guess the other thing I'm maybe it's something I'm panicking that I'm going to get stuck somewhere and not be able to move somehow. Does that ever happen?
So if you don't move, that means you're going to be able to mark a value. So eventually, I mean, a value that you have on that card is going to show up.
Okay.
Also, that's what some sort of what the roles might be for is kind of getting you out of jams. A lot of the abilities are related to improved movement.
Okay.
And are you able to correct a mistake? Say you wrote a 6 somewhere on a card, and you're like, oh crap, I don't need 6 here. I need something else. Can you erase it and change the number?
Currently, that was not a rule. It's kind of like once you fill up the numbers, and you do have 8 slots per card. So once you fill them up, you're kind of stuck with those numbers. But that does mean you could put quite a few numbers. I mean, there's already 4 on there to begin with, and then you have 8 more slots to put more.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of our questions are just based on mostly. If we were able to see the board, I'm sure it'd be
yeah, I don't know.
Much better to
This
understand.
helps
But
a
you
little bit.
definitely want to lead, letting them know that the cards will be different for each player, and everyone has their own board. Yeah.
Any other feedback?
How many people did you say you were only thinking 4? I mean, you could. This is sort of a game that seems infinitely expandable, right? Like you could play 6 or 8. It's kind of got that welcome to. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the only limit really is the number of components. So I go with 6 because that means 54 cards. 6 times 9 cards is 54. It's kind of a typical small size game. So, but technically, if you put more cards in there, you could play infinitely. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, maybe adding duplicates or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, great job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What's your name?
Yes.
I like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cory. The next game is by Andy, and it's Roll and Feed. So Andy is here. Hello, Andy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. It didn't work when I was testing, so I just wanted to check. So I'm Andy Lisa. I'm going to present to you a game called Roll and Feed. It's you're thinking it's another roll and ride, but yeah, it is a roll and ride. It's a very interesting player interaction, right? So it's a 2 to 4 player roll and ride game, which can be played by kids from the age of 10 and above, and it can be played from 12 minutes to up to 25 minutes. That's what a game typically takes, based on the number of players that you have. And as typical roll and rides, you have to have some dice. For this game, you require a minimum of 3 dice, and it goes up to 9 dice. And I'll explain how the dice work. You have animal tokens. So your job here is you're an animal shelter owner. So it's your job to feed the animals with some food. So you have these player tokens where you roll the dice on. You have a very interesting game sheet. So each player gets their own game sheet, and I'll explain to you how this is and what are the different components on this one and how the interaction comes about because of this. And you also have mission cards. So at the end of the game, each player, you get a mission card at the beginning of the game, but then you kind of use them to get points at the end of the game. And mission cards are as simple as place only 1 dog food or place the most amount of cat food, and you score against each other, right? So that's the game. I'll just move to a different camera to show you how the game is set up for 2 players. Yeah, so this is a setup for 2 players, right? So you only have 3 dice because it's 1 dice per animal token for a 2-player game. Now this is the a game sheet. You have the animal shelter. You have food bowls in 4 different rooms. You have what I'm calling volunteers. They are helping hands, which give you a special effect if they are completed. And you have a bin. This is used when the food goes bad. And I'll talk about that as well to you very simply. So this is the way, I'll just show you one turn and show you how the player interaction works. So say this player, the first player chooses to feed a cat. He'll choose the number 3. That dice is out, and the second player or any other player cannot use that dice. You start with a 3. So I would put a food, say that the cat needs fish. So I would put fish in this block, so that's number 3. But what happens at the same stage is that the other player would have to mark out on the odd section 3 helping hands. So that brings him closer to his power up that he can use to change the die value in the future. That's the interaction that you have where the value that you choose affects the play for somebody else. Now, the second player then decides, I will go for 6. I want to feed the birds. So on his card, he'll say, I want to feed 6 out here somewhere down at the bottom. So I mark that out with bird seeds, which is a different shape. And this player will then mark out 6 helping hands on his sheet. And the last part of the game is where you have the variable play is because the last die is what kind of ends that particular turn. Both players mark 3 bins out because of that food is gone bad. So in that way, you can kind of influence the strategy of each player, and also you can kind of the mission cards also help in kind of determining what strategy you can use to end the game. That's my pitch.
Okay. Go, Cory.
Quick question about the dice. So you roll the dice first, and then you place them corresponding to their color to the particular animal, and then you choose which one you're going to go with. Did I miss that? Or?
Yeah, you roll the die, and one player goes first. He picks a die, and then the second player goes after that. You pick another die, and then you take turns after that. Then who goes first?
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you actually showing the 2-player setups and how the player interaction worked, like that, like before that I was like really confused, but then like I saw it and you went through like 2 turns and that like got me into it, like, so that was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You probably took either Jonathan or Cory mentioned at the beginning to introduce yourself, and you took their advice. I don't know whether you heard that earlier, so that's good. I would be curious to know what makes this game different or interesting or fun. What's
so for me, yeah, so it's because a lot of roll and night games, you don't have a lot of player interaction. You all take one particular die and you don't influence the other person's strategy. But in this one, because one die is out, and also the value that you choose influences somebody else, and they can come closer to getting a power up. That for me is kind of very different from the other roll and write games I have seen.
Yeah, okay. I think early on you said like it was a roll and write, but it was different because of the player interaction, but you stopped your sentence there. And like we had to wait like a whole like 2 minutes or like till the end of it to know what it was. But maybe like saying something about like, oh yeah, there's a lot of player interaction, or like you can influence strategies, and then saying it again at the end when we actually know all the things about the game would really reinforce that.
Okay.
Did you say something earlier about there could be more dice in the game?
Yeah, so there's 3 dice for a 2-player game, 6 dice for a 3-player game, and 9 dice for a 4-player game. So the number of turns increase, but you still leave 1 die at the end to determine what goes in the bin.
Okay.
And what triggers the game end? When the bin is full?
When all the bins are full, yeah.
And all the bins should be full at the same time, right?
For all players, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, any last feedback for Andy?
Maybe kind of, I know it might be hard to remember, but maybe lead with what the board and everything looked like to set up, and then go into the explanation. If you don't have like a dual screen or something someone can look at, or while you're explaining, it'll help with the imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
John, did you have any feedback?
I think I understood everything about it. Overall, it's a pretty good pitch. I agree with showing the board a little bit sooner and using that to help explain it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That seems
Thank you.
like, I mean, I'd play it, but I also love roll and writes, so.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Have a good day. The next person is Tally, I believe. Talita, and he is right here. Hello. You have Doggo Dash.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Good.
Yes. Doggo Dash with only one G because it's not my mother tongue English, so that's how I spell Dogo. I'm a Brazilian living in Berlin, and Doggo Dash is my first game. I made a small video with an introduction of the gameplay I want to share with you. Just a sec. Here. I hope you can hear me, but if you don't, please let me know. Can you see the screen, the YouTube screen?
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh.
I'm not sure we can hear the sound on it though.
Okay.
But you can
Is
just
it
give.
too like you're not hearing at all? Like
No.
is the setup like 4 cards to each player, and then the strongest cards win. Well, that's it. That's
Like a battle.
the
It's a
video
battle.
I wanted to show. Yeah, it's like a rock, paper, scissors meets trick taking. It's a battle, but it's also very friendly and chaotic. We actually designed this to be a game for everyone, which is like kids and adults, and a family party game. Very simple. It's meant to be a filler. There's a little bit of strategy. I can share my screen again with the Tabletopia version that we have running at the moment. Can you see the screen?
It's loading.
Here, it's how it goes. Like, okay. Each player has 4 cards, 2 to 5 players. Then I would recommend 3 to 5 players, so it gets more chaotic, which is the spirit of the game. And each card has a different strength. And here I made a player ad, which has the card strength plus catnip and good boy. As we were developing the game, we decided to go with less than 10 rules. So this is mostly the rules of the game. This one sheet, like the characters, who beats who, and catnip, which is when you have 4 cats in your hand, you can call catnip, and then they become your points. And then a good boy, that means that it's a tie, so everyone has to play another card. And here I put an example of a catnip, which is like I have my hand. I played a round, and then I fill up my hand again, and then I have 4 cats. Instead of playing the round, I say catnip, and I put my cats on the table, and then they become my points. Also, here is the good boy. He's very cool, and it means that it's a tie, and everyone that is playing in the round should play again. And here is Cookie, the human character. The human character beats everyone except from the cat. And the cat is beat by everyone except from the cookie. So this is the catch of the game, like the point of confusion. When we play around and let's see, like people play a dog, a cat, a bear, and a human. In this setup, the cat wins. Like cat beats only the cookie, but all of the other characters when cookie is played. Our art is also something that we are using as a selling point. I will share another screen with you with our art, because this art on Tabletopia, it's still missing some of the illustrations. And I have now a better version I would say, with more variety of the cards. So can you see the illustrations? It's going to be 60 different illustrations. Here we don't have 60 yet because the illustrator is still working on it. But here you can see like there are the themes, of course, like there's the rock bear, and then the swimming pool bear, and then the cook bear, and then the dogs, and a lot of cats. They're like very cute. The human characters are also diverse. Sorry?
Okay. Well, the 3 minutes is up. So let's go into the feedback. That's okay?
Oh, okay. That's it.
I'm just really curious to know, you get the cards you win from that. So is it possible that you're eliminating players because you're getting the cards from them and then they don't have anything to play? Or is it?
You fill up the hands, like you have 4 cards and you show one at a time. So we begin, everyone shows at the same time 1 card. And then if the winner is already decided there, then this winner gets these points, the 4 points, 5 points, depending on the number of players. And every player fills up their hand with another card from the stack. So the players always have 4 cards until the end of the game, when it's the point that it's not possible for everyone to have 4 cards. So it's the end of the game and everyone just have to count their points. It gets really fast. I got to 60 cards because I wanted to have a play time of around 10 minutes, and that works well. But before it, like the first version of the game, I had 25 cards because I had this crazy idea of having Doggo Dash gameplay during, like, between the subway stations in Berlin. Because there are many, they're like 2-3 minutes, right? And then you could play like 2-3 minutes very quickly and then you have the game done. But then I thought it would be funnier if people could actually play a little bit longer. Also for kids was very good to get them to understand the gameplay, because in 3 minutes you kind of like, yeah, you see how it works, but you don't get it very much, and you don't get to see the variety of the illustration. So I kind of made the game a bit more extensive.
I think getting to the actual playing of the game, like you waited till like the very last part of the pitch to get to like how you actually play the game. But getting to that like way sooner would like explain the game so much more. And you also don't need to go into all the art and stuff. Like it's a short pitch, so like focusing any amount like on the art is probably focusing too much versus like the gameplay. Did you have any feedback, John? Cory?
Yeah, I agree. I would put a link to the video on the sell sheet as well. That way, like, especially if you're pitching at a convention in the future when they happen again, like, people aren't going to be able to hear the video at a convention just because it's so noisy all the time. So I would just put a link to that on the sell sheet so they can see it afterwards. I think it's a good thing to have, though.
You've done a lot with the art.
Thank you.
But a lot of publishers in general may not may have a different approach for the art. So I wouldn't be too tied to it. The other thing is, I took a look at your spreadsheet. If you wanted to add the card count, that'd be great. And then the DIY portion, you really don't need that. You could maybe show more of the setup of the game.
I think the DIY portion is pretty valuable, but I would include the setup of the game a little bit more. I agree. I would try to move some components around on here.
Yeah, like looking at the sell sheet, like the sell sheet.
So I add more information about the game itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, with the art, yes, generally a lot of times people will totally retheme or totally do whatever. Once we've seen the art, we know. Like, I got a picture of it right away. I didn't need any explanation. It's cute, it works, and that's enough. You don't need to waste any time. Like if somebody's looking at art, they'll just look at it and they'll know like it's nice. And what they really want is what it feels like to play it. What's the experience? What's it like? How long does it play? Yeah. What are the key mechanics? How's it going to work? Real fast.
Yeah, I did like that you did talk about like, oh, it's for kids to adults, etc. So like knowing like the audience is a really good thing.
Yeah, that's super important, especially when you're trying to match it to the right publisher.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. Any last feedback? Okay.
Thank you
so much, Tally.
Thank.
Oh, I got her out. Oops. Sometimes I make mistakes, and that's okay. But this is Matt Williams. He is from Steam Kitty Games, and he has Otter Park.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time today. I'd like to share Otter Park, a game for 1 to 6 players. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. 1 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, with a playtime of 40 to 60 minutes. In Otter Park, you work at an otter park, building an otter slide with the goal of maximizing otter satisfaction. It is a worker placement game with engine building where players place tiles to construct their otter slide. In the center of the screen here, I don't think you can see my cursor over it, but in the center of the screen, you can see a otter slide that has been created in the process of making the game. There are 10 rounds to build your slide before the park opens. To start, you hire workers such as badgers, beavers, and woodchucks. Each of these provide different resources for you, and at any time, different workers are available. If you can see down in the lower right-hand corner, a screenshot from a early playtest that we did, there is a board in the center where people can hire workers and plans. Then once you have your workers, you gather materials, then you can purchase plans. You can only build 1 plan per worker per round. So there's a limit to the size of your slide. You want to be very careful as you're planning it, because once you put down a tile on your slide, you cannot move it. Each feature of your slide gives you various points. You can see here on, say, the slalom card, it provides 3 points on the right-hand side. Certain cards or features cost more than others to build. Additionally, at the end, you can score bonus points for things such as the longest slide, the widest slide, the most number of branches, the most curves, and so forth. Additionally, each player is targeting their slide towards a specific species of otter. In this case, I'm showing information about the North American river otter. Each otter has things that they like. For instance, a river otter wants something that's twisty, curvy, fast. A sea otter, on the other hand, you know, they kind of want to have some food, they want to float around, they want to chillax. And the bonuses for those otters depend on, you know, which otter you're building for. You don't want other people to know which otter you're trying to build for, because they may purchase up plans that you want. So Otter Park has an educational aspect to it as well. If you notice here on the card about the otter, it talks about where it lives, how large it gets, and importantly, it also has the endangered status. Some species of otters, there are 14 extant species at this time, are very rare and very endangered. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. I lost my track of thought. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking, anyone have questions or feedback?
I have feedback. The cell sheet that you're showing here on the screen is a much better one than the one that you linked.
Makes sense.
This actually shows me information about the game, where the other one just is a big picture of an otter with some mechanics listed. Whereas like this is actually helpful, and I can kind of see what the game setup is. I would go even farther on this sell sheet and try to put a little bit more game information on it.
Mm-hmm.
How does the scoring work for the Otter's favorite things?
There are bonus points for getting each one. I don't have them on this particular image.
Okay.
I agree with Jonathan. I was going to mention the sell sheet deal too. That I agree that it's a much better setup there. Should also have like some component counts on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of still in flux at the moment. Trying to
yes, because I mean, even up until the point where a publisher is done developing it, it's going to be in flux. But having a ballpark idea of like how many meeples, cubes, cards, etc., will give a publisher a rough estimate. Like most publishers can look at that component count and get an idea of like, okay, this is like a $50 game right now. We could probably get it down to like 40, and it's a viable thing for our line.
Cool.
This is a more general thing. This is what the eighth pitch in a row. And this is not specifically your pitch, Matt, but like it's a blur, right? And if you're hearing pitches for a few hours in a row, like you kind of got to have something when you come in with a like, okay, this is bam. And you don't know how many pitches someone's heard already that day or like in a row. And there's got to be something distinct that grabs you that's like, oh, I want to listen to this really carefully because this sounds super interesting.
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask that exact same question. Like, what is it about this game that you feel makes it stand out from every other game on the market?
I think
it's the main theme. Like, if we cut the theme off.
Okay.
What do you feel like the most standout thing about it? It's with the exception of the theme.
With the exception of the theme, I think the way that the engine and the asymmetric victory points work together.
Okay. Yeah, definitely focus on that during the pitch. Like,
okay.
The theme is great, but again, we kind of mentioned it a couple other times. Like, publishers are very likely to just retheme it.
Yeah, and like even on your sell sheet, I didn't see engine building. So like when you said that the engine was the most like the coolest part, I was like, whoa, it is engine building. Like I missed that somehow.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week, and I realized in the last half hour that it is an engine building game.
Yeah, we realize stuff like that all the time. Not a problem.
Yep, definitely include the core mechanics. You can easily be hit with some zingers. Like, for example, you were mentioning about the components are kind of, been fluctuating. You're probably deciding on which cards and such you want to keep and remove, tighten the game up. So here's one. What percentage percentage of wise is this game close to finish?
I think the actual game itself is fairly close. It's more needing some more playtesting to make sure that all of the scoring points are balanced. So like the bonus for a specific species and so forth.
Yeah, I really liked how it seemed like you'd practiced before. Like this wasn't the first time you've talked about this game, and because of that, you got like really close to the only thing that went over the 3 minutes was like the thank you. So that was really good. You started talking and you didn't like go in wildly different ways. So I thought that part was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
I have talked about it, but today I fleshed it out to fill out the 3 minutes.
Yeah. We're doing a 3-minute pitch, and that can't be said of every pitch that we've had. Well, like a lot of people, like regardless of how long the pitch is, like I've been on speed dating where it's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Like you knew the time limit, and that was very good. You spoke to that audience.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. And the next person is Sean. Okay, I can do this. Sean, you are here, and Sean's game is called Wild, Wonderful, and Weird.
Morning or afternoon over there. I'm hoping. Can you see the screen? Has it come up with the game on it? Oh,
Yep.
There we go. Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Sean. Excuse me if I stumble. It's very early over here. Wild, Wonderful, and Weird is a 2 to 3 player 18 card set collection game where you and the other players are competing to collect sets of Australian animals to give back to some zoos to help with the captive breeding program after the summer that we just had. And what you're doing is you're moving around the outback. So these cards in the middle represent the area that you're working in, and the other cards are your workers that you're moving around. So a little bit like Taji, you move the workers to a column or a row, and on your turn you get to move one of the cards, and then you have the option of taking the card on the intersection. So in this case we could take the platypus, and if you get 2 platypus you can play it as a set for 3 points, or you can try and get the monotremes, get 1 platypus and 1 echidna, and play that down as a set for 4. So there's 2 kinds of sets to get. You can get 1 of each kind of that species, I think, or whatever. Like you can get a marsupial, monotreme, or reptiles, or you can try and get multiples of the same animal. The snakes themselves have some abilities that will interact with the game, so you can collect the sets for quite a few points, but you can also play them down to the block ability. You can play it on top of one of these cards, which will prevent your opponent from moving it on their turn, and then when they finish their turn they take that snake into their hand, and at the end of the game, if you've got the snake with a strike ability, it will actually kill one of the animals in your set, reducing the value. So there's a risk reward on going for all the snakes, or getting caught with one in your hand, but you can then play it back out, force your opponent to pick it up on the next turn, and then go out yourself, so they take the penalty. It's played across 3 rounds. Each round there's 2 cards that are dealt face out to be workers, so you're not sure what the complete sets are available, which is pretty much like going out in the wild trying to find animals. You don't know what's out there. And it plays across the 3 rounds about 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Feedback?
Can you zoom in on a card for me, please?
Yep. Anyone in particular?
Anyone. On the top right, is that the count of that card in the deck?
Yes, it is. And then the top left is the icon that represents it in the set collection down the bottom.
When we draw them, we're putting it into our hand, right?
Yep.
I would put the count icon on the left as well. Always put, like, when cards are in your hand, put all the relevant information on the top left corner, because people splay their cards that way.
Yep. I'm just writing
it's
this down.
most valuable when it's on the table, but I assume I still want to know, like, if I'm hunting for another kangaroo, how many there are.
Okay, yep.
And then you're collecting them and then playing them, correct?
Yeah, so on your turn, you move a worker, you pick up the card. If the card is face down, you have the option of taking it blind into your hand or flipping it and leaving it there. And then you take it into your hand, and then you can play your set if you've got a set, or you may wish to hold it in your hand and try and collect more to get more points. So the round ends at 9 points. Once someone's got 9 points on the table, sets in your hand don't count, but you can only have a maximum of 4 cards in your hand.
Okay. And when does the board refill?
At the end of the round, you just shuffle all the cards back up, deal them out face down, and then each player will alternate flipping your cards over. The number that flip depends on whether it's 2 or 3 players. And then once done, you take one of the face down cards to seed your hand. So like this would have been just to give you a bit of a start, to maybe give you some sort of direction on what you're collecting. So each round, what cards are dealt out are different. So like if you're trying to get all the kangaroos or the marsupials, you probably wouldn't have got them because the one kangaroo and one of the wombats was dealt out.
I like the idea of the snake thing. I'm afraid of snakes, so I'd probably be putting them down as quickly as possible. I took a look at your cell sheet. On there, you have listed about the art, the testing, the sample only. A publisher will understand that. I really don't think you need it if you want to save space for other information.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
With it being 18 cards, have you pitched this to Jason Teichmeyer yet?
It started off as one of their competitions for November, but I didn't get it finished till February. So a little bit late for the November comp.
Yeah, it'd definitely be worthwhile to reach out to them. I mean, this is their wheelhouse.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I caught that it was 18 cards until I looked at the cell sheet. You might have said that and I just missed it. But yeah, it looks like a lot of game for 18 cards.
Yeah, I would just tighten that whole pitch up because it's a short game with a few number of cards with really limited actions, and all of that should just come out right at the beginning.
Yep.
And that would then allow you a bit more time to show some of it in action.
Okay. Yep.
So it's a simple set collection, 18 card, up to 4 player, game. You're moving, collecting cards, collecting sets for scoring over 2 rounds, like whatever the thing is, 3 rounds.
Yep.
And then say, for example, these are the things I would do. This does this. Bang.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, everything that Molly said, like she's got your pitch down. Like you should just do that exact thing. Because like if you talk all about it and then you're like, oh, okay, now let's talk about an individual card. Like everyone knows what is going on, but for your pitch, like we had to go back because I wasn't sure like how movement worked.
Yep.
And there was a couple of questions at the end. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So with the movement on your turn, you just get to move one of these cards to create the new intersection.
Yeah.
And that's where like chucking a snake down means that the next player can only move this card. So you can sort of limit them, but I have to tighten all that up.
Yeah, overall it looks really interesting.
I agree.
Any last feedback?
It is on TTS if people would like to try it one day.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
So that is the end of the designers that we have now. If anyone wants to reach out to any of you or find you on the internet, how can they do so? We can go around maybe Molly first.
Sure. So Flatout Games is very simple, flatoutgamesmail@gmail.com, real low tech. And then every social media is at Flatout Games.
Okay. John?
You can reach me on Twitter at John Gilmour, JONGILMOUR.
And Cory?
You can reach out to me at contact@timesinfinitygames.com. I'm not opposed to being reached out on Facebook as well. I love Facebook, so I'm always messaging.
So thank you all for being here and help judge, and for everyone watching. If you want to know about the next one, we have a Discord. It's at weirddraftgames.com/Discord. We do a game design live chat every Sunday at 2 p.m. CDT and a pitch practice every second Sunday of the month. So everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Carla. Thanks everyone who pitched. It was very interesting.
Yeah, thank you.